Well, I've been, thinking a lot about the past, present, and future in preparing for our Thursday night class on Arya Deva's teaching. In chapter 11, that refutes truly existent time. And boy, it's really fascinating thing to think about. And some of the applications have been coming to mind in the last few days. So just to give some background, one of the key questions that we have is we're looking at past, present, and future and refuting them being permanent phenomena is like, do they exist? If we even think about taking them out of the realm of permanence, it's like, does the past exist? What do you think? No, yes. So if the past didn't exist, then I don't know what we're having for lunch, but it's some makeover of what we've had in the past, right? There's a going forward of those things. The past, if it didn't exist, what is that stuff that came from yesterday? If the past doesn't exist, I've been thinking about my mom a lot lately. If the past doesn't exist, then my mother, who's passed away this year, how did I get born? Right? For sure it exists. But not in the way we think. That's where we get stuck. So the same question comes up, does the future exist? This one to me is trickier. My mind says no. But if the future didn't exist, then how could we plan to have a Shantideva reading tomorrow? When would tomorrow be? What's the future about, right? But when we think, when we can sit here and go, oh no, the future doesn't exist. But when we're sitting here future traveling about, what am I going to do for my job in the next week? What's going to happen if my body doesn't work better? What's going to happen if it doesn't work out that I stay in this place and, I don't get along so well? What's going to happen in the future? I mean, we've got all kinds of ideas about the future. So we think the future exists because we spend a lot of time there. We think the past exists because we spend a lot of time there. And it's very easy when our memory of the past comes up to kind of be right there. Does anybody have that experience? Like sense of space, like, Christmas, for sure, for a lot of people, evokes a lot of memory. And it's easy to think, oh yeah, it's right here. So, Charles Dickinson got a whole lot of mileage out of this. Using the ghost of Christmas past, ghost of Christmas present, and the ghost of Christmas yet to come as illustrations for Ebenezer Scrooge, if you may recall, who had these dreams, as it turned out, visions of his poor old partner, Marley, who, in my mind, was destined to be a hungry ghost, dragging around the chains of his miserliness for all eternity, appears to Ebenezer Scrooge, for all eternity in that worldview, it appears to Ebenezer Scrooge and, kind of gives him a hint, like, if you don't change your ways, my friend, this is what's going to happen. And we see this ghost of Christmas past that looks really true, ghost of Christmas present that looks really true, although it's actually the day after, so even that's future. And then the ghost of the Christmas yet to come, and so he has a chance to change his ways. So that's the great gift of looking into the future, but we can't touch the future. We can't touch the past. It exists in a different way than we are thinking, right? I mean, the cake is what Venerable Children was talking about so much as an example, right? The present cake is a cake right here, but the future cake is not a cake. Future cake is not a cake. The future cake is a phenomenon, a functioning phenomena of all the conditions that are existing at the moment but haven't yet come to be. That's a paraphrase of the exact, but that's basically what it is. Past cake is the disintegratedness or the cessation of the cake that was yesterday. It doesn't exist as a cake, but it still exists. The point of all of this, like we'll get into this more on Thursday night, but the point I'm really been thinking about is how our future travel seems so real to us when we start stressing out about what's going to happen tomorrow, or what's going to happen next week, or what's going to happen sometime in the future. What if? And we get so terrified by the paintings that we make of things in the future that are not even the future object, because we don't know that the causes for things even exist. They're like non-existent. Do you get what I'm saying? They totally don't exist. If we've created the causes for something that, is pretty sure that it could arise, that's one thing. But generally, that's not what we're freaked out about. Scrooge actually created some causes that were worth freaking out about. Because in his, looking at the Ghost of Christmas Yet to Be, what the image was that, people were talking about this miserly old guy who died, and, it was a good thing that he died. Things like that. And then he gets to see his gravestone. Well, in that case, maybe that follows the definition of a future phenomenon, a functioning thing that is the non-completion of the conditions for its arising, given that the causes for its arising exist. I would say what he encountered was that. But when we spend our days getting really upset and worried about or afraid of what's going to happen in our future, it's not this, generally speaking. It's really just phantoms in our mind. And so, if we recognize this, if we think about it, if we can start to, in our day-to-day reflection of watching our own mind, recognize, oh, I've just painted another scenario of the future. Stop. Does this exist? Can I find that the causes for this scenario actually exist right now? Analyze it a little bit, and maybe we can start to put it down. And one meditation I have used a lot in my life when I find myself like going into the freak out of what's going to happen to me in the future is to just stop and go, okay, where am I right now? I am sitting in a chair in the dining room at Sravasti Abbey. Have I eaten today? Yes. In fact, there's a meal on the table right there. Do I have clothes on my body? Yes. Is the heat on? Yes. Is there anything that I need right this minute? Well, lunch, but it's right there. So to really bring ourselves back to the present and just ask, am I okay right now? Is what I'm doing okay right now? Am I in great suffering right this minute? No. And tangibly speaking, this minute is all that really has form, and it's gone like that too. But all those fantasies in the future, fantasy, mostly. And if we're like Scrooge and we have created the causes, we can look and say, oh yeah, the conditions for that future arising exist. Then I can, with an even mind, say, okay, then I'll change that. I'll just change it. Simple. So this is it's a spin-off from from chapter 11 for sure, but it's a useful way to think about how this time, reflecting on how this past, present, and future thing works for us, and to keep our minds happier and more content right here in the moment. It's essential. When we're happy, content in the moment, and we have some wisdom about what our mind is doing, then we can really take responsibility to create the causes that we want to create, and not be run by our fear of the very fantasies that we ourselves created, like that.